try to make it more practical. That's slide number 13. We're going to see in more detail how to make practical use of transformative learning to find a more balanced stance in dealing with the dialectic tension between self and identities. How can you help a client or a student with rigid thinking change into a more open and flexible approach to life? These are some of the toughest cases. Fundamentalist, for example. The case study that I'm going to present is a composite. But how many of you have had to deal with people like Rick? I have found many individuals like them that need to develop new identities to expand their ways to deal with reality. So under this model of self and identities, we could conceptualize Rick's case as linked too much towards having a self with strong commitment to a well-defined set of values, and that he needs to develop a more encompassing, exploratory, and tolerant identity, which eventually will help him transform his present concept of self. Under this case conceptualization, our first objective will be to guide Rick to recognize and name the values that drive him. We can show him the model of values by Prince Gibson and Schwartz, or there are many others. But this is good because it is very clear about the polar tension between some values and how, by adopting some values, we automatically discount others. For example, in this wheel, the values that tend towards conservation are opposite to the values that tend towards openness to change. Based on this model of values, we can ask Rick to use the graphics feature of PowerPoint to make a pie chart of his values, something like this. We can ask him, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you value self-direction or universalism or benevolence and so forth? And in PowerPoint, the numbers translate to slices in the pie. Yes, the bird and all those. I'm asking to one of the typed questions. Yeah, those are avatars. And it's the best feature of of Second Life, to be able to self-transform in anything you want. Okay, I was talking about helping Rick compose a value pie of his values. With this practice, we're not really interested in the actual results, but in making Rick anchor these abstractions visually for him to begin to get a conscious grip on his values. To help Rick go deeper into exploration of his values, we now can show him the model of self and identities, the one that I created on the black area in front of you, and then ask him to do his own. So he may end up creating something that I'm calling an identitogram, like this. On one side, you can see the self with 4 concentric circles, and he puts in yellow the values that he endorses the most. And once he sees the list of values, the possible values that he could explore, then he can recognize that he is missing change and exploration, those that he colored in blue on the bottom, like a smaller area that he would like to work on. The next objective, once Rick starts to understand that he's not tied to his values, but he can move above them and explore them. The next objective is to motivate Rick to explore the potential of values that he doesn't feel comfortable with. The point here is to invite Rick to go through imaginal and virtual experiences that can add to Rick's understanding of the value that he has been rejecting all along. And there are many possibilities. For example, in virtual reality, you can ask your clients and students to express different personalities with different avatars and see how others react to them. And we're going to have an activity here for you to explore values. I also have planned something more complex than this, but again, they recommended me not to go into difficult situations that you guys will not be able to control technically or that may tax the server. So what I'm going to do is to drop a representation of a value on your inventory. But let me first change this thing. We're going to use a different set of values. This life values inventory you can find online, and there is an instrument that has been validated. It was done by Crace and Brown. So we're going to use those 14 values to see how do we feel when you have to comment or connect with someone else to talk about values that you feel comfortable with, or with values that you don't feel comfortable with. And I'm going to do, now it's going to take me a minute to drop those different. Okay, now why don't you stand up, and we're just stand up and talk with someone else about the value that you're wearing, and try to say, on I am mode, I mean, try to say to your companion, if you express that value in your life, how do you relate to it? And I want you to notice the level of comfort if you're wearing a value that you really relate to, or the level of discomfort if you have to talk a value that you don't express and don't believe in too much. Yeah, we can have 5 minutes for this practice. All right, good that you got a value that you like, but sometimes the practice works better when you get a value that you don't like, so you can have a glimpse of how Rick feels when he has to explore a value that he doesn't quite endorse yet.